Welcome to another edition of Inside the Text. This is our Bible dive into this upcoming scripture for this Sunday, which is April 30th. This is the fourth Sunday of Easter in the lectionary series, and we are looking at John 10, 1 through 10. The fourth Sunday of Easter is often known as Good Shepherd Sunday. Every single year in the lectionary, we will have a text based on John 10. And where the gospel writer John describes Jesus as a good shepherd. But each year, remember it's a 3-year cycle, each year it takes a different look at what type of shepherd Jesus is. So, because one year it'll be looking at John 10, 1 through 10, the next it'll be 11 through 20, and then 20 through 30. So, this year, year A, we're looking at John 10, 1 through 10. And I invite you to open up your Bibles and follow along as we dive into this coming gospel. John 10, verse 1. Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of the strangers." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again, Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they might have life and have it abundantly." Here ends the reading. So, Jesus is a good shepherd. This is Good Shepherd Sunday. We're going to have hymns that talk about Jesus as our shepherd. You'll hear Psalm 23 in music, and we have shepherding imagery. But understand that here Jesus is using actually a unique term. I am the gate of the sheep. So is he a shepherd or a gate? This is the unique year to utilize this first part of John 10 as Jesus as gate. And what is he getting at? What is the metaphor? In terms of matter of speech and writing, you have to look at, Jesus opens again. "Very truly I tell you." Very truly. He's trying to get a new message, a new perspective of looking at leadership, or who are blessed by God. And then and he tells the people one version, and then there's a break in it, and they still don't understand. And so he tells them, "Very truly I tell you," he says to them. And it's kind of like, let's consider it, another way of understanding the gate. So why is Jesus talking about himself as shepherd? Again, you need to understand that if you were to pull out just John 10, you'd have all this discourse about Jesus identifying his role as the leader or way into salvation, talking about salvation, when you can't take any one text out of context. You got to understand it comes in a narrative. So John historically, as I've alluded to earlier, always has a pattern. There's a sign that happens. There's a dialogue with people who witness that sign, and then there is a discourse from Jesus about what that sign meant or what that sign shows. So John 10, you have to look at what was in John 9. John 9 was the healing of the blind man. That was the sign. John 10 is the discourse that explains what happened in the healing of the blind man. So you really can't pull it out of context. You got to have one and the same and know, who is Jesus speaking to? Well, he's speaking to his disciples finally, because if you remember the healing of the blind man, Jesus was just walking along and he healed the blind man, and then there was this massive discourse between the blind man and the rulers of the synagogue trying to figure out how he was healed, who Jesus is. The blind man was kicked out of the synagogue, and his parents were too. That was the big fear, to be kicked out of community, cast out. And Jesus comes and finds him and says, very truly, I tell you, you will be blessed, and I'm the good shepherd. So you have this whole massive, societal drama of who belongs, who doesn't belong, belonging, being disassociated, and now you have John 10. And again, Jesus is here. He's talking to his disciples about that scenario, what happened in John 9, and what was happening in the concourse with the blind man. So Jesus starts to try and explain what happened in the healing of the blind man and his relationship to the community, to the religious community, to his faith community, and now his relationship with Jesus. And Jesus tries to describe, this is the first time he talks about salvation, and how was somebody saved. So Jesus, rather than talking about myself as the good shepherd, which will go on in more segments of John 10 verses 11 and on, here he's saying, I'm the gate. He starts off with saying, I'm the gate. So understand, when the whole healing of the blind man story happened, Jesus was walking along with his disciples. They saw the blind man at the gate outside the city, begging. And so Jesus is connecting to that, situation. Jesus saying, I am the gate. That man was outside the gate. He was blind. He was having to beg for his life, and I healed him so that he would be removed from that gate. That gate would no longer be a stopping point for him. I removed the barricades, and now he can come and go. He doesn't need to stay at the gate to beg for, his daily sustenance. But now he can come in and go out. He can be a part of the community, and be free from the burdens of what blindness had caused on him. So Jesus says, I am the door, and uses these, and again, I am. In John's gospel, you have to understand, Jesus is depicting his role in bringing about God's grace, God's glory, and God's salvation to all people. And so I am statements that happen in John, are like, I am the good shepherd, I am the door, I am the light of the world, I am the bread of life. This is another I am statement. One example of what Jesus is. And and now we have a bunch of characters that Jesus is talking about instantly in this, as he's trying to describe it. You have thieves, you have bandits, you have strangers, and you have the sheep, and you have Jesus, who is known. So Jesus is trying to speak into all the influencers that play a role in society and bringing about God's glory and saying who belongs, whether it's thief, bandits, strangers, and poor sheep, who just go where they're trying to listen. They don't believe the stranger's voice. They don't hear, but they hear Jesus' voice. The true sheep will hear his voice. So the gate now is the pathway to salvation. So, well, okay, as soon as you hear gate and pathway to salvation, you think, okay, must be, Jesus is talking about gatekeepers. That some people get salvation and some people don't. And that's where Jesus is trying to position himself as different than any other gatekeeper, or those who would close a gate. He is now opening the gate to those who would have been left out. And if you can't just talk about salvation, that you're going to get into heaven. This isn't about just getting into heaven, because Jesus is talking about, he says, and my sheep, I am the gate, and my sheep who come in by me can come in and go out, come in and go out. That's not talking about heaven. That's talking about God's blessing here on earth. That's talking about being one of God's children and having your needs provided for you, or your salvation, your forgiveness provided for you. So Jesus coming in and coming out is talking about our life here on earth. It's not talking about life in heaven. It's being a part of the faith community and being part of the synagogue. So, what does this blind man need to be healed from? Well, he was outside because of his inability, his disability, or his different ability, and Jesus healed him. So now he had freedom to not have to beg for his daily provision. He had the freedom to come and go. Also, the synagogue, because they didn't understand how he was healed, kicked him out of their community. And so Jesus is bringing him back into a greater community and says, anyone who kicks others out is a thief or a bandit. Now, this isn't talking about religious leaders as like saying the Jews are the thieves and the bandits. Also, understand that in John, 12, Judas is the one who is claimed as the thief and the bandit. His own disciple, farther on in John, is talked about as one who is a thief, who comes. Are you a thief that comes in the night? It's one who is trying to bring about salvation by a different pathway than Jesus is, by bringing about by domination or trying to confront the powers that be in their way rather than in God's way. So the thieves and the strangers, or those who sneak in other than by the way that Jesus wanted to bring about salvation or bring about community or bring about creating a welcome, doing it your own path by sneaking in. He was talking about his own disciples that were going to circumvent his pathway of discipleship. And he was talking about Judas. He wasn't talking about the religious leaders in this point. The strangers, those who would call out a different pathway, might have been the religious leaders, but not the thief and the bandit. So the shepherd discourse and Jesus' door is directly tied to this whole healing of the blind man. You can't just pull it out on Good Shepherd Sunday and use analogies as Jesus as a good shepherd and the way he provides for us without knowing what he's making reference to and what he's in the people that he's speaking to. Otherwise, you get tripped up by all these exclusionary terms that, well, if Jesus is the gate, then that understanding that no one comes to the Father except by me, that is exclusionary, rather than Jesus trying to portray how he's trying to open that gate. He's the one, the pathway that let sheep come in and out. The gate is not closed, the gate is open. And that is a new passage, or a new good news message for us. So, lots of stuff to unpack in this text, and interesting to always understand the backstory and the deeper narrative within the gospel. So I pray that this hopefully is helpful to you as you hear the word preached this week, and that we get to see you in church. Peace and blessings to your week.